Ralph, can I ask, obviously you're talking about this, unlike a lot of yourself, a lot of Christians do believe in the science which is behind the anthropogenic climate change and global warming. Where is your stance on this, and that they are inevitably going to make cuts towards air travel? Do you think that they should be refunded, or what was your opinion on this issue?
No, I certainly don't, not at all. And one of the reasons, fundamentally, going right back to basics, is that nobody ever remotely thinks about some of the advantages of global warming. Never do I once hear, all this is terribly negative. It really is. I mean, it's like stifling people's, life in a way. And you all, maybe when you grow up, I hope you won't stifle people's lives in this sort of way. But fundamentally, if you think, I asked a student audience the other day, what were some of the advantages of global warming? And about 5 hands went up. And the first 2 answers were that crops ripen quicker, and the other one was that we'd waste a lot less fuel on central heating in the winter.
So I'll say in our country, there are other countries where there's going to be increasing in temperatures while our crops are ripening. All their crops are going to shrivel, and no one's going to be able to feed themselves with good poverty in those places.
That's a good.
What you're saying is very, very.
I agree with that completely. But don't forget that nearly everybody lives in the northern temperate climate. They don't live in generally. China, northern China is temperate. Northern China is temperate. Anyway, I'm only putting another point of view. Do think about these things.
Okay, we've got a few comments here from the.
Just to come in on that, it's interesting that initially you introduced yourself as a climate change denier, and I'm saying it's happening and it's good, which is quite a radically different position. And the real issue about why global warming is bad in the short term is that the physics of global warming mean that as air temperature rises, the atmosphere, for every 1 degree that the air temperature rises, the atmosphere can contain 7% more water. What that means is that very, very quickly as temperature rises, you get much, much more violent rain. Dry areas dry out because the power of that temperature dries them out much more quickly. And high glaciers, inland glaciers, melt fairly quickly. The Antarctic is probably safe for a while, but the glaciers, for instance in the Himalayas, melt quickly. All these things have an impact on water. Water is the immediate danger.
That's the big one.
That's the big problem. And when you have a situation where the Himalayan glaciers no longer can provide water for India and China, 2 interesting things, small countries with not very many people, that's a big, big problem. And where you get a situation where rainfall patterns switch, and yes, some areas will get more, some areas will get less. Unfortunately, humankind over the last few thousand years has developed to live in the areas where rainfall's about right. And if we start switching it around, or the climate starts switching it around, that will cause intense problems. So yes, there will be some areas in the world that are a bit better off. Unfortunately, they won't tend to be where people are living. And the shortage of water will become an intense political and humanitarian crisis first, before some of the other issues of global warming.
Okay, Deirdre, your comments.
Yes, the problem with global warming, of course, we don't just get warm weather. The point is, we get extreme weather. Has anybody here today looked at the television? I presume a lot of you have. And seen the pictures from Cockermouth?
Yes.
I mean, it's absolutely horrendous how you can sit there today of all days and
What
see
about
what's
Linton and Lindman?
Exactly.
No, that's
exactly.
50 years.
Yeah, but
50
yes,
years, when you were young.
But yes, and it happens far more frequently. I think that was 1 actually. It happens far more frequently. That is the point. The gales and the floods are far more frequent than they used to be. And we have to do something about that. I think, as I say, I think today of all days, when you see those pictures on the television today, and you hear the awful stories that have happened overnight, to sit there and say that, I think that's quite appalling.
Do we have any response from the audience on the comments that the panel have made so far?
Yeah, could I ask Dr. Fuller just to clarify the view on that? Because for me, like other people like of the older generations, they're the ones that seem to ignore 99 or more than 99% of scientists that say climate change is true. They're the ones that seem to be ignoring the fact that everyone's realising that climate change is something that's happening. And what's your reason for being as sceptical because I mean, of the older generations, they're the ones that seem to ignore 99 or more than 99% of scientists that say climate change is true. They're the ones that seem to be ignoring the fact that everyone's realising that climate change is something that's happening. And what's your reason for being a sceptic of it? Because I mean,
all right, okay. First of all, let me say that I don't deny global warming. What I deny is man-made global warming, and I think it's most unlikely that we can actually change the situation by anything that we're doing at the moment. So that's the first point. Just say it again, the question.
Okay, well, so just coming into that, the natural trends of climate change happen over thousands of years, over
That's right.
like the Quaternary period. Of the changes that we've seen have happened in a matter of hundreds of years, and that's closely related to the start of the Industrial Revolution. So, and as I said, not over 99% of scientists agree with that. So, how on earth can you deny that?
The biggest change that we can all read about in the books occurred 10,000 years ago, roughly, of course, when the changes were massive. All the ice melted, sea levels rose no less than 270 feet. Our predecessors who followed Neanderthal man were extremely good at adapting, They couldn't go from England to France anymore because the English Channel was formed, the Bristol Channel was formed, and it made very little difference to them apart from a gradual movement. And it wasn't a quick movement, it may have taken place over at least 4,000 years.
You could sum up for yourself, please. I need to know
Okay,
more.
I'll stop there.